Sammy O.
You.
Welcome to Hoagie Time, my friend.
I'm happy to be here. And
Yeah, man.
I love the sandwiches, too.
Sammy Oropeza, ladies and gentlemen, the fighting pride of Briarcliffe, Pennsylvania.
Damn right I am.
This guy's lived a storied life. He's almost like the local Forrest Gump so far. Lots of accolades.
He runs just like him.
Tradesman, a mixed martial artist,
Semi-retired.
semi-retired,
Fighters never retire.
Boxer.
Do they, really?
Yeah. Didn't want to wrestle anymore.
Senate candidate wrestler,
Yeah.
Senate candidate MMA coach as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Inspiration to the youth.
Thank you.
And you really are. You're an inspiration to this area, particularly Delaware County, but like even more so the St. Joe's feeder area, you know, the
Damn right.
Glen Olden, Briarcliffe, Collingdale. Like we really took, you know, when you're doing all this great stuff, we got your back, dude.
Thank
We're
you.
watching it all. But take us through it so somebody doesn't know Sammy O from the get-go. Like where you
sure.
from? Like what's the story?
So, first off, went to St. Joe's in Collingdale for grade school, right?
What? Spartans.
Shout out Spartans everywhere.
Went to Monsignor Bonner. Went to Williamson Trade School. I when I was a kid, man, I was really into martial arts and always thought it would be cool to pursue a career. Remember watching UFC for the first time and imagining what it would be like, and then ultimately it really was. I went to an ECW, used to come to the Briarcliffe Field House.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, at the field house.
And if you can imagine, for me, I was in 5th or 6th grade.
Right.
And it was the first time, like, the crowd's excited, music plays, and the guys walk out, and it's like that intense feeling.
Yeah.
People booing, people giving them the finger, people screaming stuff
And
at
that
them.
particular wrestling league was like all everything went right.
savage,
Yeah. No
Extreme
rules. Yes.
championship
Yes.
wrestling.
Yes.
That was like Sandman and shit, if I'm not. And it was always on
New
this
Jack,
before we had
Sabu.
200 channels.
It was
always
blood
on
and
late
all that.
night
Yeah,
on a
yeah,
random
yeah.
channel. Yeah,
Yes.
So you saw that at the Briarcliffe Fieldhouse, which is still one of the few places around that's still in use.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
I
is.
know
And it
you'd
still
be
looks
happy to hear that.
exactly the
Looks
same.
exactly the same.
What a
yeah.
versatile venue. I saw George Bush there when he came
I was
to
there
our
too.
area. So
I was
from
in first grade. I was
from
there.
the president to the Sandman, Briarcliff is hosting events of all shapes and sizes.
I'll never forget that. George Bush came
Hell
to the
yeah.
Briarcliff. George Bush Sr.
HW, Herbert Walker.
and ECW. That's great. Yeah, that's unbelievable. So you start there with so you're a kid, you see the wrestling, and you kind of come up through Bonner and Williamson. You go there for at that point you wrestled, right?
Yeah, I wrestled, and when I was at Williamson, there was a jiu-jitsu gym on the same street as the school. So, you know, Williamson has the strict rules, and
Yeah,
I
sure,
would
sure.
I would sneak out and I would go train jiu-jitsu, and I really enjoyed it. It's one of those sports where no matter what walk of life you're from, people go to jiu-jitsu, and it's like a self-discovery, and it's good for you. You learn a lot about yourself. You grow a great network. All these things you don't even know are happening, but you're enjoying yourself. You're becoming a better person.
Sure. And the jiu-jitsu, is that the defensive one? That's how you kind of learn how to
Hoist Gracie, UFC 1, the guy that beat everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the one.
Your opponent's being the aggressor, and you're learning how to kind of do it without being aggressive and using that as like a last tactic. I'm not familiar.
It's like exactly like you're saying.
Yeah.
It's the complete opposite of everything you think fighting's all about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the smaller guy manipulating the bigger guy's momentum and
Momentum. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
it's the most effective martial art ever created in my mind, and it's one of those things where it's like, hey, if you want to know how to defend yourself or survive a prison riot, I would learn jiu-jitsu. I would.
Yeah, that's been a top of my to-do list for a while, Sam.
You might need to know
now
how
that
to
you
do that.
mention it.
That's great. Yeah.
But that was great about the UFC in the mid-'90s, because nowadays mixed martial artists are so well-versed in every style and so well-rounded that I remember the appeal of the Ultimate Fighting Championship in the 90s was what style is superior. At least like that was kind of like, dude, we've talked more than our share of old school UFC, but that was the idea. What style is superior? And it'd be sumo versus boxing versus pankration versus Tang Soo Do, White Tiger Kenpo. Yo, shout out Sensei Keith Hackney, wherever you're at, Sensei Keith. All glory to Sensei Keith Hackney. I'm sure you're watching, Keith. You're out there.
So Williamson, so for 3 years you wrestled there.
Not really. I mean, I wasn't really like a standout wrestler. I wasn't. It wasn't something that I really pursued there. But it was something I did while I was there.
Yeah.
But you know what it was at Williamson? The winter break. You had to go to wrestling practice over the winter break too, where it was like you never got home. So that was one of the big reasons why I really didn't want to wrestle while I was there. But I had the background in wrestling.
And home was Briarcliffe through this time.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Briarcliffe, man. You put them on the map, that's
Damn
for sure.
right.
Just like I'd like to think Thug Folk put Collingdale on the map.
Damn right.
Sammy O did that for Briarcliffe.
Yeah. You know what I would love though? I really did. When they would announce, like I fought in Bellator, and they would say from Briarcliffe, Pennsylvania. I don't know. It just always excited me before a fight. I loved it.
Oh God, that's the best part.
Cooler to say, and of course, you fought representing Philadelphia before, but so cool to actually give a shout to one of the small towns that we live in here in Delco. Like here in Briarcliffe, and I remember your style at the time was you had the fro-y type hair.
Oh yeah.
With the Briarcliffe headband.
Damn right.
In the Old English script, and it was it was the realest shit ever, dude.
That's how you got to represent, right?
Fuck yeah, dude.
If you're getting a Collingdale tattoo across your stomach, it's gonna be in that
Old English
that
script.
Old
It's
English
gotta
script.
be,
Like the
yeah.
shirts that we had.
Yeah, from the Dr. Dre Easy lettering. Yeah.
Hell
So
yeah.
You kind of go from that wrestling. So how does that kind of like, transform itself into MMA? Like, did you get into a rate from college, or was there a few years off where you worked, or
I hated my job. I worked at a refinery, and I just wasn't happy with my life. And I'm one of those people when I get so disgusted with myself, I'll make really big decisions. I will. And it was like a general unhappiness. I didn't like what I did. I went to school. And I was so excited to graduate, and then you get a job that you're really not excited about.
Yeah.
You feel like, I'm just going to die one day. My life's boring.
Yeah, is this it? Is this all that all that work? Is this what it's?
Yeah, this is what happens.
So you had like something nagging at you.
Now what?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it just made me want to train more, and I would train so often. I would compete. I did a lot of grappling tournaments, which really is the best way, in my opinion, to get better at or to like prepare yourself for an MMA fight. Like the more you're competing in like a grappling tournament, and the reason why I say that is because when you're getting punched in the head, like if you're doing boxing, like you're risking injury, and you can always risk injury in a jiu-jitsu match, but it's competition, so you get that one-on-one competition, but at the same time too, you're not really taking punches to the head or any severe injuries. So it's like it would be like being in a band and playing like once a week. You know what I mean? It's like if you can just keep playing.
You keep yourself into it. You're in shape, so you're doing all that stuff, and it kind of. I mean, what clicks? Is there first kind of like with the grappling? Was somebody there that was into MMA kind of promoting, or like what made you kind of switch?
Because I would assume that not everyone that gets into this has the tools or the skill set to take it to the level you took it to.
Someone's kind of got to be like, oh, this guy.
Yeah, so I got my purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I did that in 2 years, which is considered like a quick turnaround to get your purple belt.
Right.
And I remember just thinking in my head, like, if you can do this in 2 years, you should push yourself to do a fight. So then I started training at the Fight Factory in Fishtown, and that's where I met Eddie Alvarez.
Sure.
And a bunch of other great guys like Zach Makovsky, another great guy. It's where I met Joey Pfeiffer at.
Okay.
Steve McCabe, Will Martinez, Jesus Martinez. All these guys were guys I would train with. And when you were training with Eddie Alvarez, you got better fast, and then you got to skip certain parts because you're learning from like one of the best guys in the world, Yeah. And Eddie's a great guy. He's a mentor of mine. So I got lucky.
One of my best friends from high school, his claim to fame is that he got smoked by Eddie Alvarez in wrestling. They were both like 135, and Eddie just smoked him.
Oh, at wrestling?
Yeah, Neil Gilligan. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I remember that match. Yeah, Neil's a great wrestler too.
Yeah.
Great wrestler.
Yeah.
Eddie was just he was quick. He was very strong, and he was intense when he would wrestle. It was fun to watch, and he would beat. I remember he would go up in weight classes to like the kids that were like undefeated, and Eddie would move up in weight just to beat them. You know what I mean?
Really?
Oh, yeah. Eddie was like that. Yeah, it was cool to watch.
Yeah. I mean, he'd go up 20, 30 pounds.
So I think he was a 45-pounder, and the one kid, he was from LaSalle, he had a Superman tattoo on his arm. But I was like, looking back on it, was like super small.
Half,
It was
show,
like,
half show him your shoulder.
Yeah.
He was a 160-pounder, so that would be 2 weight classes up. And
Yeah.
Eddie, I remember the kid was crying because he had never lost.
Yeah.
And he got smoked by Eddie Alvarez. And I remember the kid's parents were there, and they were upset too. Like, yeah, Eddie smoked him.
So at that point, like on that level with the wrestling, is it for Eddie to go up weight classes? Is it power or leverage? Where I know that jiu-jitsu can be more of a leverage game, or is it both? I guess.
Yeah, I think with Eddie and like wrestling, it's a lot of like how quickly can you cover distance and get in on the right spot. You know what I mean? Like Eddie was super fast, and I remember he could change levels very quickly. Which, if you're wrestling somebody, that's kind of like it would be like falling over when you're getting crossover. Like when you're getting crossover in a basketball game, it's embarrassing kind of when it happens. That you're like, you got me.
Yeah.
So no, Eddie was and again, I mean, he was a UFC world champ. He was a Bodog world champ. He was a Bellator world champ.
And you meet him and you get with him while he's at the height of this, or is this before his?
This is when Eddie Alvarez, I think everyone who knows now is starting to know Eddie Alvarez is the real deal at this time, because this was right before he fought Kawajiri. And if you ever watch Eddie Alvarez versus Kawajiri, that is still to this day. I mean, the only fight that I enjoy watching just as much is Fedor versus Krokop.
Yeah, Pride, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, like
I love that.
Yeah,
and Eddie fought this guy in Pride, or Dream. It was called Dream, which was Pride, where you can kick to the guy.
Soccer kicks are legal, right?
The real deal. Yeah.
Is it a tournament style, or is that just when they do the Grand Prix event?
No, they would do tournament styles, but it wasn't the same fight in the night like it used to be, though. So you would do a tournament, but it wasn't multiple fights in one night. Which is
okay. Yeah, that's like
I miss tournament style.
If you do
I miss tournament style as a fan.
I mean,
no matter how long it goes, you don't want to fight somebody.
I watched
again
Karate Kid multiple times, and like they were Danielson was fucked up, but he went back in for that last one. We know what happened.
I just saw a meme recently because that's how I get most of my news and opinion these days. I saw a meme the other day where the crane kick is actually illegal because in the karate tournament it was not full power strikes were not allowed, and the crane kick is full power. There's no restraint there.
Yeah, you're shooting the kill with that one.
Yeah, man.
I love the crane kick because you know me. I love martial arts styles that are exotic and beautiful and deadly.
Yeah,
you know, in equal parts. That's always been my trademark.
It has. I can vouch for that. But so you meet and you're doing that, and when do you become? When's your? I mean, you had a few amateur bouts before you turned pro.
Yeah, I had 2 amateur fights.
And what year are we?
2008, right when the Phillies won the World Series.
Great time to be.
Yeah, that was my first amateur
fight. A lot of us had a lot of amateur fights around those times.
I had one at McFadden's that weekend.
Yeah, that parade was awesome. That was a cool parade. Dude. Yeah. So, 2008 and then 2009, June of 2009 was my first pro fight at the Trump Marina in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
And then it was like a snowball rolling down a hill, you know? There was a lot of things that I did wrong. There was a lot of things that I didn't know I was doing wrong as it was happening.
Right.
And you know, hindsight's always 20/20. You know, when you're looking back, it always you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But
technically, you got in young, right? Not older. You were older when you started, right? Than most people kind of get in.
Yeah, really. When you think about it, I mean, starting training and really not taking it serious, but starting when I was like 18, 19. You know, that's considered getting into it late.
Right.
Like Joey Pfeiffer has been into it since he was 5 years old, you know, doing grappling tournaments.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he would come to the gym all the time when he was.
And Joey, now just to explain his background, that's who you're coaching.
That's who I coached. Yeah, I coached Joey. I got to help Joey during the beginning part of his career, where the beginning part of your career, your fighting career, is so important because there's a lot of things you have to learn in a short period of time, and you have to be able to fight too.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to get the right fights, grow your brand, and kind of get used to the lifestyle of how you're going to have to live to continue to do this.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got to be a commit. It's a life commitment, right?
Full committed. Like,
All 4
What's that
seasons.
lifestyle like,
Yeah.
Sam?
it's
And I'm sure it changes from person to person, but are we talking daily training? Are we talking moving away from your family and living in living at a training facility?
for some people it is. Joey's fortunate now that when I started, the Philadelphia fighting scene, mixed martial arts, wasn't where it is today. And now they are actually growing like real fight teams to where Joey trains with Sean Brady, Andre Petrowski, a bunch of other really great guys with John Marquez and Daniel Gracie, where they have a team now. They have a team of guys.
Based in Philadelphia?
Yeah, based in Philadelphia. So it's awesome. And a lot of UFC fighters will come spend the week there too, train with the guys. So Joey's getting to train with a bunch of different people.
And when you say team of guys, group of guys that train together, give each other feedback, mentor each other.
That are UFC fighters or, fully committed to becoming UFC
and
fighters.
do they pull their resources? Because I know, it's tough. You got to train. I mean, you can't really have, a normal job. I mean, when you were
you can't.
in your career, you had to kind of make a decision, right, between, when you were going pro, it's not something where you can do the normal 9 to 5 and put your all into, right? You got to make a choice.
It's 100%. You have to be the definition of commitment is to devote oneself unreservedly. There has to be zero reservations. That's one thing I would always beat into Joey's head. It's like you have to find a way to live a lifestyle to where you're not, living beyond your means. You're not even you're almost you live at home with your parents, or you get a setup where you can live very simply.
Yeah.
So you have to do that, and then you have to find ways to make money.
Yeah.
So I would always show them getting sponsors, being able to promote people's companies, and then it grows your network, and then people get invested into your career and want to see you succeed. It's important to them, and you'll attract people that they're not looking for a return. They're just happy to help someone who's in that situation going after what they want. And then at the same time too, that's not always easy. And in the beginning part of your career, you have to take the right fights at the right time to get noticed. And you're not making any money.
Sure, I'm sure there's luck in picking somebody at the right time and all that. It's timing, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm guessing the difference is very small at that level. Everybody's tough as shit. Everybody's got good dimensions, length, and all that. It's something minor that the one guy does that the other doesn't, that separates, I'm sure. And then, luck thrown into it. That's got to be a huge thing.
Huge. And I'll tell you what too, I'll mention someone who's out there fighting now in the UFC from Delaware County, Andre Petrowski. I watched Andre Petrowski's, I think it was his pro debut, right? He gets smoked with an overhand right, dropped. He wasn't knocked out, but to the point where you're
startled.
Yeah, where this guy could have finished you.
Yeah.
And, Andre gets back, wins, collects himself, shows heart, shows determination, beats this kid. But, I mean, there's an example of somebody who just choked out a guy that was already trying to challenge Kazimat Chimaev, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Chimaev, yeah.
And Andre walks in there and chokes the guy out in a minute 30 in the first round. You know what I mean? So,
Sam, what's that like? The getting clipped. What does that feel like? I read something. I read something from Justin Gaethje just this week. He said when he fought Charles Oliveira,
I saw that today.
It felt like a battery, and his tongue was stinging it was on hooked to a battery for a minute.
It's like getting shocked.
Shocked. Yeah, exactly.
It's like getting shocked. So there was 2 fights where I got rocked, right? The one, it felt like I was on the Gravitron upside down. He hit me in my
St.
temple.
Joe's?
Yeah.
St. Joe's Carnival?
Did you ever go upside down on the Gravitron?
Yeah, dude. I thought you went on
I was too busy gambling that dollar gambling game at the end of the parking lot to go on rides.
It's the first time I gambled with Josh O'Hagan. Your dad owned a bar, O'Hagan's. So Josh always had money on him. He had $100. I'm yeah, let me borrow 20. I ended up winning $60. I didn't even think to pay him back. I was just I got 60 now. Josh is probably looking at me yeah, dude, you have 40. But sorry about that. But yeah, I remember playing, and they didn't mind. Kids could play it.
I remember losing a lot of money and crying and like trying to get more money from my mom to go play more. Like I definitely got addicted to it.
It's a good thing you didn't get involved. Yeah.
So you got rocked so hard it felt like you were on the Gravitron upside down. In St. Joe's parking lot.
On the St. Joe's parking lot, and then the second time was my last fight, and it felt like when you were a kid and like my brothers would grab me by my hands and spin me in a circle as fast as I could to the point where you weren't having fun anymore.
Yeah. The big distinction there.
Yeah.
And I like Sam. I know Sam's family from growing up. They're all 6'4" and gigantic guys. So you like, I mean, speak on that a little bit. Growing up with your family, I'm sure that was a big influence on your fighting. I know you've spoken about your mom and dad a lot and the influence they had. Like so, coming up, what's that kind of background?
So I'm the youngest of 6 kids. There was 4 boys and 2 girls.
All legends.
Yeah.
All absolute legends.
I had awesome growing up. I had awesome big brothers. Like my brother Nicky was just by his mentality he was always number 1. So like my oldest brother was always like in first place in anything he wanted to do.
Well, he's the oldest.
Yeah.
Remember that, Sean.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so my brother Tommy would like, I think it made him such a better brother because, like, Nicky would always Nicky was first at everything. You know what I mean? So
shout out Sammy O.
Yeah, Tommy's the best. Yeah. Tommy's the best big brother you could ever ask for, man. He really is. It's like having Tommy as a brother is awesome.
Yeah.
And then Benny was always like super dangerous. So it was because he never really had a shot, so he had to be more dangerous than the other 2. So it was a nice collection of attitudes.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Shout out Mr. Wildcard, Benny O.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, like
Semper Fi, Ben.
Learn other ways,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's so you have 4 brothers and 2 sisters.
I have 3 brothers, so I make 4, and then I have 2 sisters. And I will say this: my sister Frances is 2 years older than me.
Shout out Franny O.
Shout out to Francis.
Franny O.
And I remember when I was little, Francis used to maul me. Like it was awful. Like it would be like people were like, we should break it up. Like we should stop that girl from beating up that boy this bad. This is awful. And I remember when I fought that guy Giedris in Bellator.
Yeah.
And I lost, but there was a moment where he was beating me up.
Was he the Russian guy?
Yeah, Lithuanian.
It was on Spike TV, right?
Yep.
Oh, dude, I was at Maggie's setting up for my gig. I'm like, my friend's about to fight.
Yeah.
And every time I looked up, wasn't going your way.
Oh man, that guy tossed me, and it was like I remember in that fight as he's like punching me and my arms trapped. I got like a flashback to when my sister would beat me up.
That is awesome.
Like this feels like I felt this before and it was like when Francis would maul me.
Franny and pigtails on top of you, beating the shit out of you.
The flashback with the Giorgio's water ice truck jingle in the background.
That's great. So you and your parents, you're the youngest, so that kind of like being the youngest and watching and learning from your siblings and your parents, like that kind of created that mindset to be a fighter because, you don't just get that mind. You could be a tough guy, but you need, like we said, you need to kind of have the mindset to put the time in and change your life.
Oh, yeah.
To be that dedicated to, go after that dream.
And I'll tell you what, like, there's a part of fighting where you'll be in a fight with somebody and it's like you got to look inside your soul. There's a moment where you're like, what am I actually really made of? And, having that why or that, that part of your story that actually turns you into a fighter. So it's such an important part of it. And part of it is like you can lose a fight in the locker room. You know what I mean? So,
no, is that what being a fighter means to you? Is going within yourself to find out who you are? Because knowing who you are, I mean, I don't know every last thing about you, but I know that you're not a guy that needs to be the center of attention. It's not about, hey, everyone look at me. Is that what led you to the fight game, to dig within yourself?
Yeah, I'd say that was definitely like searching for something bigger than you, being a part of something bigger than you. Yeah.
Your spot in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like I got a place to fill and it's right here and I'm the only person that can fill it. I would say that was a big part of it. I think I think the uncertainty of it, and also too, like growing up, there are certain things that happen to you where like you get punched in the face, right? You're like, I never want that to happen to me. And then you get a little bit older and somebody else does something to you and you're like, I never wanted that to happen to. And then it gets worse and it gets worse. And I think part of, pursuing a fighting career was having things happen to you where you were like, I don't want this to happen again. What do I do to make sure it never happens again? And it's like, go in there and fight somebody. You know what I mean? Because that's going to be, at the end of the day, that is the highest form of confrontation, right? Kind of like getting in a fist fight with somebody.
Yeah.
So if you can handle yourself in there, like changing careers, doing other things in life, it's not that it was easy, but it was a road or a path you were willing to walk,
Right. And you've taken that mentality into that's at your core. I mean, that's who you are. Like knowing you, I know that. And then, but you've taken that in every, as a family man, as a father, as a family man, and other avenues that we'll get into. That you've gone from your fighting career, like you've taken that all.
Yeah, and it's when you so again, I wasn't like a world champion. I wasn't, fighting main events and making millions of dollars. But when you build yourself as a fighter, and then when you take your life changes, which everyone's life does. Right. You're like, you have to create a new identity. And then when you're fighting, part of it's ego, and you have to have an ego when you fight.
Yeah. So
when you're changing careers or trying to find a new path, it was the hardest, but thank God I had these experiences, because if knowing I can get through that, I can get through this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And do you find that some of these battles, everything is kind of within yourself? Like, obviously there's sometimes you're matched up with a guy that's physically, you're not but I mean, there's always something that you can do better to fix it. So you kind of,
you can beat anybody on any night.
Yeah,
I still firmly believe that.
So from a loss, you can take something and be like, and work on things in yourself to where you think that, that would make you better prepared. You can always just kind of work on yourself and kind of.
I think that's in order to get better in life, in order to advance, you need criticism.
Yeah.
And it's
and failure.
Exactly. So when you lose, it is whether you want the criticism or not, it's the best dose of it. You know what I mean?
Reality,
The most truth you were ever told.
Yeah.
What are you good at? What are you bad at?
Yeah.
And when you come across someone just in life that hasn't received any kind of negative feedback, hasn't lost anything, so to speak, whether it's someone swooping in to save them and saving them from a hard lesson or whatever, it's painfully obvious.
It's obvious.
And they've missed out on a big chunk of life to overcome the adversity.
Yeah, to learn from something tough that's happened. You hit it right on the head. You can tell those people right away that nothing bad happened to them yet. And, I'm sure it was a struggle with the fight, with, when do you know when your time's up? Because you'll always be a fighter in your heart, but as far as the actual, you were fighting professionally, MMA, and how do you know, is that a tough, is it up, or do you always kind of keep the thing in where you can fight again?
It's funny, when it's up, you'll know, and you'll do more fights after it's up than you should.
You don't trust it yet.
Yeah, and you never, whatever, 12 o'clock,
it's never a safe bet, even when it's going great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You get clipped and lights out, right? I mean, it's dangerous.
It's super dangerous.
Do you get scared? You get nervous before a fight?
No, I never got nervous like that before fights. Which my favorite part of the fight was actually right before you walked out. That was
that part.
Yeah, because it was uncertain. It was total uncertainty, but for some reason you were totally fine with the uncertainty you were walking into. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You were prepared. You put
and
the
I would
work
imagine
in.
That's where all the hours of training comes in.
Yeah,
because
exactly. Put the work in.
A fight, in the purest sense, is a stressful environment for your mentality, for your body.
Traumatic experience.
But and just our bodies are programmed to the whole fight or flight. But by the time you're ready to walk down to the octagon or the ring, you've drilled it so many times, and you've already got popped so many times in training camp that you're not even worried about that. Is it all strategy at that point? Is it muscle memory, or are you just so calm in the moment that it is a chess game? or is it a combination?
Oh man, so like your first couple, you're in a dream.
Yeah.
But when you start becoming like, oh wow, I know what's going on.
Right.
It's a weird feeling where like an hourglass, like you're constantly like waiting for your opportunity and trying to be, show aggression or, be assertive in there.
Yeah.
But for me, at least, it was, I just wanted the guy to make a mistake that I trained for them to make.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Being left-handed like you are, like, is that a big thing? Like, that's a positive. Like somebody kind of throwing you kind of, because people aren't expecting that left clip.
Go into a room where people are sparring, and if there's two southpaws in there, there's a lot of lefties in that room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So that's always been an advantage to where like you can kind of wait for that first shot that they throw sloppy moves, slip and kind of get them.
Yeah, so like the thing that I always liked was eventually an orthodox fighter will imagine he's fighting an orthodox fighter.
Yeah, eventually. Because
They'll make the mistake.
Their instincts will kick in, and then they'll forget all that training. Like, oh, I'm doing a lefty, do something, and then boom, your natural kind of.
I'm always moving to that side where
Yes.
Because I'm only seeing righties, and then a righty is eventually he's eventually going to think he's fighting a righty. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, that head kick, that 9-second head. I mean, he did what all righties naturally do, which is like they're slipping a jab, so they lean to their right. And I would watch that guy, and I'm like, he does it every fight. It was like a nervous tick in the beginning of the fight.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to throw it out there. And if it misses, it misses. But if it hits,
Lights out.
yeah, you're a genius.
Yeah.
And
you are.
yeah,
And you became a genius.
He ducked right into it, man.
Dude. Now, we said like what getting knocked out feels like. As far as there's any kind of way to get knocked out, what hurts more? Like, does a kick hurt worse than a punch? Or is it once the lights are out, it lights out?
All right, so if you're talking about like physical pain,
You're right.
The two worst places, and it would be a kick, would be like right above your knee, like that portion right above your knee, and getting kicked in the liver by someone who knows how to kick you in the liver. Is the absolute.
And where is that? Because mine's shot. I don't
Your
think
right
it exists.
side.
Right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bas Rutten's move, right?
Oh my goodness!
Was
And
it
if you
the punch or the kick?
What?
It was a liver attack, but was his trademark a liver kick or a liver punch? Punch,
He would
maybe?
say punch, but when you watch his fights, he would kick people more in the liver.
But it was
Yeah.
liver was the target.
yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
what is it? Is it a sting? Does it like just paralyze you for a second?
It's a delayed reaction. It's really weird. It's like your liver absorbs all the impact, and it takes a second for it to send a signal to like your body to be
It
like
was like a sponge, maybe.
shut down immediately. And it's weird because it hurts when you breathe, but it hurts when you hold your breath. It hurts when you crouch down, but it hurts when you stand up. Like no matter what you do to relieve the pain, it makes it worse.
Jeez.
Just this weekend or 2 nights ago, the Usman kick. That's what I wanted to
about
ask you
that?
about that. Yeah, I mean, Edwards is getting beat. Like, I mean, he's got like what, a minute left, and Edwards has methodically and then boom, he dropped a little
comfortable, I
bit.
guess,
And I
man.
saw that, and like he was just kind of like in la la land for 10, 15 seconds. But like when you get knocked out like that, there's just you don't even come back for what, 20, 15, 20 seconds.
Well, where he got hit at,
Yeah.
I always say this, he got kicked in the neck. So it's different than getting kicked in the head. When you get kicked in the neck, it's like when you get kicked in the head, someone pulls the plug out of the computer.
Yeah.
But when you get kicked in the neck, it's like when a CD skips. You know what I mean? Where it could skip for a while, it could skip for a split second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And is that the impact disrupting the blood flow?
I think so.
Yeah, like kind of causing that little gap, maybe like a little.
And then you think about the
Sounds
shock.
good to me.
The shock.
That's scientifically.
The shock going up the back of your right? 'Cause
Yeah.
your neck is absorbing the shock, and then you have your neck, your spinal cord, your brain stem.
Yeah.
I think it has something to do with that too.
Wow.
Man, because I saw that I thought I was like, oh, this is great. We're gonna have Sammy on, and just the way that went down, like, and that's the whole thing. Like with fighting, also, like it's that split second. Like you can be losing, but as long as you kind of keep your head in it, and you got the cardio and you got the stamina, there's openings. Like anybody, like any given Sunday, anybody can win a fight. Like you were saying earlier.
That was the 4th round or the 5th round.
I believe there was a minute left. It was the fifth
round.
It was
Yeah.
the 5th round with a minute left.
Minute left.
Yeah, that's
Anything
awesome.
can happen at any time.
Yeah.
Lots of ways to win, lots of ways to lose in MMA.
And when you're at that high of a level, it comes down to like who's going to make the mistake, not who's going to be superior.
Yeah.
Because everybody's crushing it every step of the way. It's who makes that first mistake.
Yeah.
Quick analogy. I've got this bowling game on my iPad. I'm really crushing it at. And I've gotten to the point where I've built myself up to a level where it's not who gets the most strikes, because everyone's throwing a strike every round because it's a really high level.
Yeah.
But it's like who misses that one strike? Who gets 9 pins down instead of the strike?
And it goes back to what
it's
we were
who makes
saying-
the first mistake.
What we were saying earlier.
It's the same thing.
Who's the one in those early days that puts in the other extra hour? You know, that runs the extra lap around the block. Like who's the one that changed their life completely instead of like changed their life a little bit, but still going out on the weekends and hanging with the girls and drinking. So those little things then might be that little thing that we think up that just happened. Like maybe it's
a lifestyle.
It's the universe rewarding that person. You know,
and you know what? And when you chase your dreams with courage, like you do get rewarded. You do.
Yeah.
But man, you got to get rid of that safety net. And I think that's with anything in life, though. It is.
Right. Yeah. So, and then with fighting, we'll segue into you politically.
Yeah.
You took a stab at the state senate, and I hope your hat's in the ring for good, because I mean the sky's the limit for you.
Thank you.
Politically, you're out there. You do the cleanups in Philadelphia. Take us through that. Like, how'd you get started with that?
Yeah. So I mean, it all really started organically. It really did. Like I moved to Philadelphia. What
year is this?
This is 2019. Like 4 months before the start of the pandemic. So like Amanda's from Ridley. My fiance's from Ridley. So convincing her to move to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, right? That was I'm very convincing. Let's put class.
I would see them on Facebook. They were awesome.
Yeah.
Like, and everybody in the community in Delaware County would see them and watch them and be like, wow, it's amazing. The before and after photos were just incredible.
If you have like 10 people, if you have like 10, 15 motivated people, you can do damage. You really can. So that started. I started like talking to more people. Where they're like, you should run for office, and I looked into it, and at this time, like, I saw a great opportunity to learn, like, to peek my head behind the curtain, see what's really going on, and I think running a campaign is something that I've always wanted to do, but you get to meet everybody, and then you get to collect data, like, where do people like me at? Where do people not like me at? You know what I mean? And then after the election, you get to see who actually is the who's who.
The who's who of the neighborhood, yeah.
Like, who's been lying to me, who's making stuff up, and who's actually, the real deal.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, it's a lot different than you think,
Yeah. Now, is the neighborhood gentrified, or is it more? Have they been there for 100 years? These families, or
so what I loved about my district was Allegheny Avenue. It's not like this anymore. They redistrict everything. Allegheny Avenue was the southern border, and when you have to get super strategic, and you have to ask yourself, like, all right, I'm going to have to do these things to win the election. One of them is knock on doors. When you go north of Allegheny Avenue, it's more of people from Philly.
yeah,
It's not the transplants that might have came from, they want roof decks type
yeah,
people.
yeah.
It's
The indie band from
The
Central
hipsters,
PA.
yeah, the hipsters are down that way,
Relocated,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's the real Philly people, and like, one of the reasons why I love Delaware County is because it's really, when you looked at it, there's tons of hardworking, good people, good families, people where they took pride in giving their kids the best education and pushing them to be the best version of themselves. And that's what I like about Philly people. It's good, hardworking people that will let you know if they like you or don't like you quicker than most people.
Yeah.
Which is great in and of itself. And people from different locales around the country might see that bluntness. They might interpret that as being rude.
Yeah.
But
I think it cuts through a lot of red tape.
It cuts a lot of red tape, and we appreciate the honesty and not wasting anyone's time. We're easy people to win over, I feel like. Just work hard and just be real.
And they will pick you for who you are. You know what I mean? And I do love their honesty. I do. I'd rather you tell me you not like me, but just because they don't like you today doesn't mean they're not going to like you tomorrow.
Right. If they see you keep showing up and doing the stuff that you were doing, that changes people's opinions right away. No matter what party, that crosses any party lines, care of community, even myself, like I if somebody's out there doing it, don't matter what or if I voted a certain way, that's the person that's got my vote. That's out there caring about the community and wants the best for, the future.
And when you see the problems in Philadelphia, they're not getting better. It's only getting worse. And I really do believe that there are a lot of people, residents in Philadelphia, voters in Philadelphia, that aren't getting served by their politicians. And running the campaign, when you see how much money goes into winning an election, it really shocked me. It really.
So there's deep pockets, just kind of like old money, just funding the whole.
And it's almost like the money that you spent on this commercial campaign, you could have really done something to change the lives of a certain neighborhood.
Yes.
But it's all like that dog and pony show to win the election. But meanwhile, you're just running on a treadmill, and all that energy can be used to benefit everyone.
And you're basically shining the asses of the people who got you in there,
Right. You at that point, you're in there. You owe so many favors to where, like, you get there and you're like, oh my God, like you had to do all these things to where, like, you're on your first day, you're already like, oh my God, like I had to scratch so many backs, like, because on the way up, was there like an opening there? Like, how was the opening for you to kind of slide? Did you have to go against like 3 or 4 other people in the party?
No, it was a special election.
Okay.
So, look, there's something about being a Republican in Philadelphia, right? Where I don't think I'm like any other Republican in Philadelphia. and for many reasons. And one of the big reasons is, the neighborhood where I work in, I'm in black and brown communities all day long. And I prefer to be in there. I do. Yeah. I mean, Philadelphia is a majority black and brown city. So if I cater whatever I do to a certain group of people, it leaves out a whole nother group of people that you could be working with. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I love working in Harrogate. I love that neighborhood. I love being in the underserved neighborhoods of Philadelphia, and I enjoyed door knocking in them. So I think that separated me right off the bat from the majority of the people. Won't go into neighborhoods because they're uncomfortable, they're scared, or whatever it may be. But I'm not that kind of person.
No, you're not. Absolutely not.
Yes.
How does the real estate, your job, and how does it tie into each other? The political campaign, the politics, and I would think that they would work hand in hand.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're in that community, you're out there for, that, and you're serving. Like, I think it's perfect for politics. Your profession.
This is what I noticed about being in real estate in Philadelphia and politics. They really go hand in hand. In order to get done what you need to get done, you have to be involved with the community. You have to be involved with the community leaders, the community groups, the elected officials, and you all have to work together. It's really that simple. Because if you're taking these abandoned buildings in a blighted section of the city and you're bringing life back to them, and you're giving people opportunities to start businesses, you know what I mean? Because a lot of the buildings that you see us in, I mean, they're being repurposed and being outfitted with entrepreneurs, with people that have their own hair, nails, barbers, whatever it is.
As far as work jobs, though, what kind of jobs in that? Because you're saying kind of a living situation, but I know that when Sugar House opened up about 10 years ago, I don't know if that's worked out to where what they thought would open up thousands of jobs down there. What is kind of the job?
It hasn't worked out for me the few times I've stopped by.
Yeah, I stop by on the way. Anytime I play in the Northeast, I'll stop by there like 2 a.m. I'm out there by like 2:06.
Yeah.
And I look at
it's not supposed to work this way.
It's not supposed to work.
Yeah.
But like, are there, companies that are opening up to where like the employment, like.
No, and that's another thing where, I feel Philadelphia the leadership could do so much more to attract good businesses, good paying jobs. We're a blue collar city. That's one of the big things that saved us during the coronavirus. Like New York, white collar city.
Yeah.
All those office buildings, all those people working, you know what I mean? It was
they're empty.
And then you live in a smaller space surrounded by everybody. You need room to spread out,
Yeah.
That changed a lot, but Philadelphia was insulated from it. So
yeah,
that was wild with New York, and I'm sure a lot of other big cities. It's like shelter in place, but I live in a building.
I know
1,500 people. It's really not.
Yeah, we're all using the same elevator. We're all
got our
touching
friends up
buttons.
in New York, and they were saying that to me, like,
and everything's closed, and I'm spending a lot of money here.
Yeah.
So how did it end? Like, you're obviously this last run.
I lost.
You lost. Yeah, but it'll never, like, hopefully you continue. But when was that? When was the running, and who'd you run against?
Yeah,
and
you ask me, the only people that lost are the constituents.
I agree with half. But when was that? When did it kind of end? How long were you out there campaigning? A year or so?
No, it was a special election, so it was a 3-month. And like, I got to tell you the story. So I'm sitting there, and people kept talking to me, like asking me questions. You gonna run? You gonna run? You gonna run? You gonna run? And I look at it, it's like the Democrat Party announces Sean Dillon running for 5th Senate District, and it was like all of them together. They're in like their Adidas sweatpants. They're wearing like, they just took their hats off, you know what I mean? They have like hat hair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they already thought they won. You know what I mean?
Because being lazy,
thinking it's Philadelphia.
Yeah, we won.
Yeah, right. They didn't even have to put the work in, which is messed up.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted people to know, like, hey, you have another option here.
Yeah.
And I, of course, like, if you think you're going to win your first campaign, I think that's kind of, it's unrealistic, and I think it's arrogant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what makes you think you're that good that you're going to just walk in here and win right off the bat,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people talk about it, but you've actually been about it, and you're not afraid to sacrifice your time, et cetera, to learn these big life lessons.
How does that work with the family, your time?
Dude, it was, I mean,
it's a lot of time you're putting out.
I got to be honest, like running a campaign, you're never at home. Never. And I guess I was lucky that
your wife's a saint.
Yeah, well, I always mess with Amanda though.
Amanda's like, Sam, why don't you just drink beer and play Madden downstairs like everyone else? We haven't seen you in a week.
He's not built like that.
Oh man, it was the fact that I think they were messing with me so bad, like stealing my signs, cutting my signs.
Were they really? They were doing all that.
Leaving them there.
They were playing all those games?
Oh yeah. Oh, like we want to send a message. Yeah, we want to send a message to Sam Oropeza.
Yeah. Oh man.
So when that's happening, Amanda was like so supportive of me, and I'm like, I swear, if this was like everyone loves Sam, they're putting me on my shoulders and like pray to me, or Amanda would be like, that's it, that's enough. No more campaigning. But I wasn't having fun. No, I was having fun though. I was.
And how long was it? The process?
It was only 3 months. It was like a 3.5 month campaign where it was one of those things too where I'm one of those guys where I never want to be the person that's like 3.5 months from now, I'm sitting there, doing nothing, or woke up late or something, been like, man, I wonder if I would have won. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or I wonder what would have happened.
Yeah,
you're an extremely driven dude, and like something like you're already sitting still. It doesn't seem like it sits well with you. Like you kind of got to be doing something like for your legacy. Like you're trying to make your time here on Earth as productive as possible.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine you having too many just completely just wasted bullshit days. I can see you getting up, and whether you're training or whether you're pursuing some kind of goal.
There has to
I could be wrong.
It's almost like there has to be an opponent to fight some days, I feel like. I'm like, I got to calm down, man. Like, just be happy about everything.
I'm sure we can find an opponent within the next few blocks once we're done recording tonight, Sam.
Right, man.
Let's
go
to roam the streets any local bar.
Go to the Buck's Tavern, right? That's right down the street.
Shout out Buck Tavern.
That's great. So it ends, and like, so what's the product in the future? Like, what do you do? Kind of dust your wounds and kind of just stay with the real estate, keep meeting people, keep making connections, and kind of do it again next time. Like, what's your goal?
One thing I did notice, like, so short campaign benefits, and then there's things that aren't good. You like anything, you know what I mean? This is good. The pros and cons. So it was, I'll work hard. I'll outwork this guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. Like anyone I'm running against, if they work harder than me, I hope they do, because it's like I kind of want to see what I do now. Yeah, now I got to really turn it on.
Right.
So that excited me. I'm like, oh, man, so I could really run a good social media campaign, which matters because it's only 3 months. So maybe I could let more people know that I'm running than he could. And I did a good job with the social media campaign. But the things that suck about it are, in order to like really win an election in Philadelphia, you have to become a member of the community. And for me to want to win an election in Philadelphia, I want to be a member of the community. I'm not showing up just to be like, hey, vote for me because
it's something in my ego.
Feel good. You're actually going to roll up your sleeves and go to work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, taking the time to become a member of the community, like I'm coaching in Parkwood for, flag football, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Shout out Parkwood flag football.
Yeah, and some of those things,
Parkwood flag football is
you're you're only 3 years in to all this, so like some of that stuff takes time, like coaching and
and my son wasn't even old enough to play flag football.
Right, so you're meeting the people, and these people that are your kids' friends, they're the members of the community. So like you're doing the groundwork now.
Yeah,
and you just kind of keep your hat in the ring, or like when it comes up again, do any of the old timers come up to you after you kind of did and was like, yo, like you impressed me, kid? Like,
oh yeah, the one guy was really cool. So the neighborhood I work in, Harrogate, shout out to Harrogate.
Shout out Harrogate.
Yeah,
Harrogate's it reminds me of Collingdale. It does.
Shout out Collingdale.
It was the mill section of Philadelphia. So the really cool thing about Harrogate people are, a lot of them went on to do extraordinary things. Like it was one of those neighborhoods where to grow up in Harrogate, back in the anything like let's call it like 1985 and earlier.
Yeah.
Probably best neighborhood ever. Like,
Yeah.
really was.
Yeah.
The guy's name was John Egan. He ran for mayor. He ran the Philadelphia Stock Exchange, but he's from Frankfurt and Venango. And an older guy, but he was so impressed to meet me and so happy and so excited. And it was cool because he started with coaching kids basketball, and he kind of struck me as somebody who, like, you ever meet somebody who, like, they flip that greatness switch, like something happens one day and it's not like it happened when they were kids, like, but they always had that quality. Like, they were going to do something. They just didn't know what they were going to do.
Yeah.
And this guy's one of those guys.
And he
like,
plugged it all in one day, put all the pieces together. Yeah.
yeah. And he flipped that greatness switch.
That's
and
great.
he always helped people too, which and that means something to me, where you're like, people compare you to someone like that, or someone like that wants to talk to you now,
Yeah. So that's somebody you met. That's incredible. I mean, is it tough? I mean, is there a fighter's chance for a Republican in Philadelphia?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, my
yeah,
goodness,
yeah.
yeah.
Because for so many years, it was kind of like you had no shot. Like, they wouldn't even show up. It was so kind of tilted.
Look at the situation that Philadelphia is in right now,
Right.
and nobody's happy about it.
Right.
Nobody thinks this is good. If you can get out there, if you can talk to people, if you can show that you're here for the people, you're there to serve them, you really do have a shot. It's just, in order to become a member of the communities in Philadelphia, it's going to take hard work, and they're not going to be like, oh, you showed up today and you're telling me this, now I'm going to believe you. They're skeptical people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
They've heard it a million
Prove
times.
yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, their radar for bullshit is 100%. It's great. That's a great thing about Philadelphia, where we're from. Like, we pick up on bullshit right away.
And people take that as a negative trait, and it's an extremely positive trait.
It is.
I believe. Yeah. Absolutely.
Especially today. It's like, you shouldn't believe a word anybody says. Like, never. Don't believe anything anybody says.
Yeah.
Like the biggest news event in the world could happen, and depending on what channel you're watching, it's this happened or that happened. There's no straight answers anymore.
There's no reliable
everything's
source
a
of
big
information.
psyops.
Yeah, there's two truths. There's two truths, like we spoke about before. There's your truth, my truth. Like, that's why I think people are sick and tired of that.
Yeah.
And somebody
People
like
are fucking pissed
someone like
off.
Sammy coming in and like right away, there's no bullshit. Doesn't matter what R or D, what's on a sweater. Like, you.
Oh, I love knocking on the doors that had its signs.
Exactly.
That was my favorite thing to do.
But right away, there's no.
It's really easy to change someone's mind. Like, if everyone's so entrenched one way or the other that it's almost inconceivable that somebody from another political party is a good person.
Yeah.
And if you could just show that in the most basic of
especially
terms.
on the local level. I think politics is all local. It's all at the local level, but at the local level, it's about service. When it gets way high, when it's national, I mean, it's so fucking poisoned by then. Like, it's a popularity contest, and like, who's fucking more corrupt. But at the local level, whoever's out there, like, putting the work in, good family person, I think, the future, the sky's the limit for you. So I'm looking forward to you staying with the political theater and taking over City Hall one day.
You know what, man?
Because I'll be there with my acoustic guitar.
Yeah, that would be
Asking
awesome.
for a gig.
Oh man, that would be awesome.
Every speech, like a walk out to the ring.
Yeah, like you're trying
I'd like to be in the entourage.
Hell yeah.
Straight faced.
Hell yeah.
That's a good. Speaking of the ring, so Joey Pfeiffer, are you coaching him now?
Shout out Body Bags Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
shout
Body
out.
Bags Pfeiffer just made the UFC.
Yup.
Right.
Smoked a guy.
I saw. him,
Yeah.
LFA champ.
Yeah, dude. And he's from what? Chichester area?
Joey is originally from Pittsgrove, New Jersey.
He's Jersey originally.
Yeah.
I thought he was a Delco guy.
No.
No?
Joey's from like this little farmhouse out in like the sticks of like South Jersey.
Now, are you still coaching him?
I do not coach Joey. Joey is still a very close friend of mine. Joey's a little brother to me. He trains with John Marquez, and he trains with all the guys at Daniel Gracie.
Yeah.
Which I am thrilled.
Yeah.
Because I told Joey, I'm like, look, I'm not going to be a fight trainer. If you're going to be committed to this, you have to have a coach who this is what he does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm a guy who cares about you, and I fought, and I can help you, but I'm not going to be the guy that is going to be, you know, hoisting you on my shoulders with a world championship belt, because it can't be
You have
that
too many
way.
things going on right now. Yeah.
He deserves somebody with like the one track mind.
Yes.
Where you're a guy that's dabbling in a bunch of different things to satisfy.
What's his ceiling right now, Scott?
Oh,
like,
my
really?
God.
What do you,
Like, 'cause
what do you
I've
think
watched
about?
the-
How's he looking these days? What do we think about the future?
Yeah.
So I got to train with him. And like Joey knows, like I trained Joey to the point where he knew what I was there for. It's like, dude, I'm not here for you to like try to wail on me. I'm giving you a look, and like I'm sacrificing myself partially. So you have to be nice to me. You know what I mean? But you have to use me for what I'm good for.
Well, your dimensions are the same, pretty much, because I've seen you guys spar before.
Yeah.
You know, you're lefty, but like your dimensions you're long. But yeah,
I give him like I'm a good, and
Shadow,
I'm a
mirror.
good training partner
Yeah.
too. Like I am. I'm good at it. I keep everybody safe. That's the one thing where I am good at it. So I train with him, and he is so good right now. He is so he's on a level where he could go in there and beat anybody. I'm convinced. He could really go in there and he really could beat anybody. And with that being said, it's obviously the opposite could happen too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not unbeatable, and he knows that. I think that fight where he broke his arm, he dislocated his elbow, showed him that you can get the rug pulled from you at any moment. So this is fragile, and you have to be smart, and you have to take advantage of all the opportunities that you get. Mixing with that, hitting the peak of being 26 years old. He'll be 26 years old.
I was just going to ask, 26. What's his weight class?
185.
185, and he's a
big.
full 185, right? And he probably walks around at 200
Oh, easy.
easy when he's not fighting.
Yup.
Yeah,
He's a big kid.
Yeah. So what I mean, that process, he goes and fights, I guess, again every 6 months, or I guess when you're at that young age, you try to get in 2 fights a year or something. I mean, it's, you could tell us better than anybody. It's not very long. I mean, your
As many
window-
as you can. Like if you can get 3 to 4 fights in a year, and you're getting out of there like unscathed in a way.
Yeah.
Man, you like that's
Go
what
the
you
ne-
kind of got to do, you know.
Yeah.
Especially when you're this young, and they can build. Like you got to think about it. It's a game too for the promoter where he's like, all right, well, I got this kid, and he's 4 years younger than this other guy.
Yeah.
This other guy, or the older guy, might not be here in another
Exactly.
8 months.
We had a friend, well, we all know him, Rob Cucinato, St. Joe's.
Yeah.
He went to the Red Sox. And,
Yep.
you know, baseball player, 4 years at Temple, and got to the Red Sox, played in the minor leagues. But by the time he got there, in baseball, you're hired right out, or you get signed right out of high school. Like they sign 16, 17-year-old kids. So here I did 4 or 5 years of college, got there for 2-3 years. He just started to hit the ball and kind of make his way. By that time, he's 25, 26 years old. He's like the first baseman prospect. There's another guy that's 17 from Guatemala.
Yeah,
They're going to put
Dominican Republic.
Exactly, that they signed. They're like, this guy can give us
Kid
4
from
years.
Florida, 6'8", throws 105 miles an hour.
Exactly, and he did it the other way, and of course the organization's going to put their time and resources.
Hell yeah.
Into the so when they have more time.
19 with a 12-year-old son.
Dude.
Exactly. Yeah.
Somehow.
Remember Danny Fernandez, or the kid from the
Little League
New
World
York,
Series?
yeah.
Yeah.
Danny.
They were the birth
just
certificate
retired.
controversy.
He just retired. Yeah, right. But that's cool that you were involved with that too. So you went, the coaching and all that. That's something I think you'll always coach, and because you're extremely driven, and you've always had a want to pass the knowledge on. All right, Sam. So what's on the horizon for you? What's going on now, and what's the future look like?
Man, I'm gonna keep running my my real estate business.
Yeah.
I will be hanging out with the family, and every opportunity I get to be in front of people of Northeast Philadelphia, I'm going to take full advantage of it. I made some great friends during the campaign, and that's one thing that I'm actually enjoying now, because you got to meet so many good people, and it's when you meet people the good Philly people that care and know that you care. It's just it's a good friendship. It's a good you want to hang out with the person, you know what I mean?
And when you make those friendships, you earn those friendships and they last. They're not superficial friendships. They're real friendships.
It reminds you a lot of Delaware County, right? Like going back to like the way you were brought up. Like so something from your core you see there, and that's probably why like I feel like you stayed and want to kind of grow your family there, is because there's something about where you're at now, Northeast Philly, there that you saw here growing up.
That, and it's like being uncomfortable and being unfamiliar too. At this point in my life, I feel is such an advantage. You know what I mean? Where if I get comfortable now, I feel that would be the worst thing, that could happen to me, where it's, you look at Usman in that last round, right? Gets kicked in the head. It's like,
Just like
when
that,
you get comfortable,
right?
You get kicked in the head,
Yeah. Well, Sam, you're a real one, and you've earned everything you've achieved. And coming from an area where people kind of spend a lot of energy complaining or tend to, you've never been one of those guys. You've always rolled up your sleeves and gotten to work. Yeah. And we all appreciate and respect that, man. So thank you so much for coming by, brother.
You have all our respect, man. And definitely, you make me want to turn on that greatness switch.